Welcome to Insight Builder channel, large language model automators, Python experts, and my dear friends. Storing inference results in Django, saving model reply to the database. Once we store the model's reply, we can create such a list on the web page itself. This list could be familiar to those who have been using the ChatGPT and also various other language models and the sessions it creates. In this case, what we are planning is pretty simple. We are just going to take the query in the input, and then the output that we are going to get from the large language model, both will be given as the output once you click this list. Let me show you. In the browser, you can see the same list here. So here is the page where you can give the input as well as submit it to get the output. But we have already done some querying. So let us click on one of the queries, and you immediately see that a new page opens with the query that was posted and the corresponding reply. This particular step, so you can actually go into any of the queries that has been provided till now. If you take a look at this particular page, it contains a lot of information, which is something that I'm planning for a couple of next videos, where I'll be working with Falcon 7 billion instruction model. So during that time only, I realized that saving the models, saving the settings that we are giving to the model into a database and then later analyzing it would be one of the requisite activities in future. We already answered. So why? To keep track of the query for later analysis, as I told you, we can create a list of queries and populate it on the page. And most importantly, we can learn about models in Django. So in Django, we never query the database manually. So the interaction is completely taken up by the Django framework internal algorithms only. How? So we have to create a database model to store the query, model settings, and reply. As we saw in a couple of minutes back, we have to create such a model. Register the model with apps admin. I'll be showing you how to do that. We need to create a HTML list in the existing page and list the queries. So if you guys have been following up this series of videos, I have made another video on introducing Llama 2 to Django. So after you complete the tutorial, you might want to continue it further and start make the query list clickable and open new page like how I showed you a couple of minutes back. So what it takes: user query model with a slug. This is important because in whenever you are going to query a particular item from the database, we need to have a reference. So usually it's an ID. But in case of the user query database that you are creating, the reference will be the query text itself. So what I mean is, let's go back to the PDF, to the browser, and let me show you. So if I hover on this list item, you can immediately see at the bottom the link that is getting generated. So in this location, you can see that this is the link which is having the entire query text as a slug here. So based on this, if you take a look at this slug and if you take a look at this query, it will be same. This is because internally the programming has been done in such a way that whatever text is getting populated here will be used for filtering the database and then populating the first result. So we'll be seeing this in more detail. Let's move to the CLI right now. The pages will be linked using the URLs.py, and the functions will be in the Views.py. And we have models.py, which links the URLs and the views. So this is how the trio works together. Let's first open the URLs.py. So now I am in the Views.py. I'm opening the URLs.py. Here we see the URLs page, and the URLs that we will be working with is in the line number 8, line number 9, and line number 10. These are the three URLs that we'll be working upon, and we have the functions, the attached functions, that is a_page, a_ggml, that you can see it in line number 9, and then we have the query_detail. So So what happens in case of this particular path is the query underscore detail path will be followed by a slug that I showed you a couple of minutes back. The text that follows in each of the query page, that is what will get filled here, and this slug will be passed to this query underscore detail function, which will be used in the backend for getting the database rows filtered. Now let me go to the views.py. This is the views.py, and we are going to work with two models, two functions, that is AI underscore ggml and the AI page, which takes the request. So AI page is very simple. It actually just renders the AI underscore page.html. It doesn't do much. It also takes the user query.objects. User query is the table or the model that we will create in a couple of minutes. It takes all the objects and then it is ordered by using the ID. That is, it is reverse ordered. And then the last 10, the most recent 10 results or the queries are reverted back. So the context returns the queries under the queries variable, and you can see that using this function render request AI underscore page.html context. So using this function, the entire data is returned back to the front end. But let me also show you what happens in the AI underscore page.html. If you guys have been following this earlier video on this video, so in the earlier video, this particular div was not there. So whatever I'm selecting, whatever I'm showing by selecting here was not there. So this was added recently, and this is a simply a div container which contains the list, query list, and here is the for detail tag that is enumerating the queries data that is passed by the context which I showed you just now, and it gets the absolute URL from the model itself. So all these things I will explain how it happens, because I'm going in the reverse way. So this is a button basically which is having the text data as the query. So q.query will be the text data, and then the for is ended, and then we have the regular content that we are having, that we have provided, and this is where we regularly provide the actual query to the large language model. So this is the form that we use. This is what you're seeing, the form in line number 23. That is what we usually use for connecting with the model. Here is the models.py. So this is going to have some additional functions and methods that are imported from different locations. So let us go to the top of the page. Here we have Django.utils.text, and Slugify is imported from that particular module, that is text module. And we have something called as pre-save that is imported from DjangoDB.models.signals modules. Why we are going to use this pre-save, we will see it in a couple of minutes. But before that, I want to show you the model, user query model. The user query model contains the user query model contains all these variables. These variables are will be the columns inside the database table. We have query, LLM model, max length, top K, prompt template, reply, and slug. So this is a slug that I was talking about. This slug column will be automatically filled up by converting the query. So you see the query column field. So it will take the data from it, convert it into slug, and then store it here. Okay, you might ask, okay, what is a slug? Why, how it is different from the regular text? So the slug is the regular text only, but it is all lowercase, and all the space between the text inside the sentence is filled with underscores. So that's how the slug is created. And not only here, slug is used in many other locations when you are writing, when you are creating blog sites, if you are creating learning management system also, there also you will use slugs for courses. In case of e-commerce, you will be using it for the products page. So you can see slugs everywhere. Compared to other models, so there is another one model that I have created called book. But compared to that model, the user query model has an additional method. This additional method is get underscore absolute URL. This particular method is importing the reverse function from the Django URLs. Basically, what it does is it reverses the query underscore detail path of the URLs.py that I showed you a couple of minutes back, and to that path the slug variable is attached. Once we create this slug, we have to go to the project page. So we have to go to the project page. We have to say Python 3 manage make migrations. So if I do make migration apps 1, right now it will say that there is no any changes detected, and if I try to migrate also, nothing will be detected because I've already done that. You guys have to complete this process. Once you complete that process, then what you need to do is you have to come back and you have to register this user query model to the admin to the admin.py. So what I mean is you have to go to admin.py in the app, this one, and you have to register the user query. Once you do this only, you can access the table like this. So you can access the entire table inside your admin underscore app one. You can see there are 2 tables, books and user queries. If you access this, then you can get all the data that has been till now populated. Also, you can add the user query in the way you want. So you see the various columns that we created, the query, LLM model, max length, top PK, etc. This is how the output will look, and you can also enter the data here also. It is acceptable, so you can save it here. And this slug is not highlighted like this. This is something that you should not fill. It will be automatically filled. Once you give the query, the slug will be automatically filled. So let me show you what happens. This is an example that I want to show you guys too. This is an example. GGML will be also fine. GGML top PK, we can take 79. There is a prompt, and there is always a bright next morning, and then slug is not required to be filled. So I say save. The moment I save, what happens is, this is an example. So the self CLI, sorry, in this models, if you remember, we gave def underscore str underscore, that is dunder str with self, and we returned with self.query. So this is how the name that you see here is getting populated. So now if I click this, you'll see that this is an example is automatically filled up. So you did not fill it. And if you go to the query details, let me go here, and you see there is a new element that has been attached here. So if you click this, you will see whatever we wrote right now is also updated here. So this is what I was talking about. We have seen how this works and what are the benefits, but you might be still asking how the query became, this is an example, into Slug. So how this happened? So the function that we are using is called as create slug. So this create slug function first of all uses the Slugify function that I spoke about in the beginning, and once that slug is created, it checks a couple of things. This create slug function internally checks if the slug is already available by filtering the user query objects, and if it is available, then it changes the slug value and attaches the ID to it. Okay, if it is not available, then the new slug, whichever was created here, is attached to it. So it's as simple as that. It doesn't change anything. The point I want to make here is that the slug contains the ID of the row also. Both of these things will be included in this. The pre-save post receiver. So this is once we go and do a pre-save, so this is called the pre-save function that we saw in the line number 3. What happens is when we use this pre-save post receiver, you can use the instance.slug equal to the create slug function. So the create slug function will return the actual slug, and that will be attached to the instance.slug. That is how it is being done. And if you go down, the trigger, the question is how saving in the admin triggers the Slug creation. So that is done using pre_save.connect. The pre-save post receiver function is sent along with the model. This is how you do it. Only this particular value here. So this is instance.query. So this is the column that you need to Slugify. You need to change this. This column should be available inside the model that you are going to send it here. So if you go down, the model that you send it here must contain the query that we are trying to slug, or else you will get a error thrown. What happens is when Django interacts with the databases, it gets the rows, each row as single object, the user query object, and each of the user query object internally has the columns values. So that's how it works. We'll be seeing that in a couple of minutes once we use it in the front end. I'll be showing it to you there. Next thing that I want you guys to also, since we are in the CLI, I want to complete that also. I want you to understand how the query detail function works. So if you go down, I have created the query detail function. In the query detail function, we are sending, as usual, the request from the front end along with the slug. So this slug is taken from the page path itself, the path that I showed you a couple of minutes back. From there itself it is taken, and then the objects, the user query object is filtered using the slug. If the user query object exists, then after the filtering, if it exists, then we say query.first equal to query, and then we return the query. That's it. It's as simple as that. We only return a single row in this. We are not going to return a list of rows. It's going to be only single rows. Let me now go to the AI page.html. In this AI page.html, we saw in the beginning that a new list UL and list HTML code was written, and here is the for loop that enumerates the queries that get returned from the function. So that once that function gets returned with the queries rows, we use the get absolute URL. So this is how we get the absolute URL of each of the queries, and then we see the query text also there. So this truncate words :5 will truncate the text to 5 words. So this is one of the filters that is available in Django template language. The other part is the query detail page. So let me go to templates and let me go to query detail, and here you see there are only couple of points I wanted to highlight. So here is the query. We say query.query. So query is the first query. You see this query comes from the database, from the views function, and this query is the column name. And again, here is the query and the reply. If you want, you can actually take a look at the browser again, and you can see the query is the text and the reply is the text back from the LLM. So we have actually gone through the entire process. So we have seen how to create the database model, how to store the query. We saw how to register the model. We also understood how to create the HTML list and make the query list clickable. So we saw all these parts. When you take a look at this particular discussion, it will be a little challenging to understand, but once you try to code it yourself and work with simple examples, you will be able to make it. I believe that you had learned a thing or two from this video. Do leave a like and subscribe to my channel for discussion similar to this on Django and related frameworks and integrating it with large language models. Till the next time, practice, 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 practice.